Respectively, there are two folders. Android, this is purely for Android. It can be opened in Android Studio, and iOS. This folder can be opened in Xcode. App.js. This is an entry file into application. Most of the stuff that it currently has, which is a welcome page, will be removed. Component. For now, I created 3 components. They are empty files for now. It's going to be welcome page, main page, settings page, and app wrapper. Any logic that I need to have communicating between those pages, I'm going to place over here, and this is going to go in app.js. It can be simplified, but this is how I chose to do it as of right now. Android. Couple things important over here. I needed to add a file called local properties, and inside this file I'm pointing to my Java SDK. Keep in mind, this setup is for macOS. It's slightly different for Windows. Next file I want to point out is Gradle properties. It points out to the version of Gradle that is being used, and Gradle is what builds this project. Another thing is build.gradle. There are 2 files like this. This file normally not being touched. It needs to be pointing what SDKs are being used. I'm not going to go that low. I'm going to go 21. I believe it's Android 6 or something of that nature. And the second Gradle file is inside app directory. Now this is important. This is where all the configuration is going to go. Couple things to point out. Enable separate build pair CPU architecture. I'm going to say true for now. What's happening is there are 4 architectures included. And when project is built, all 4 of those architectures will be included in that app. App by itself is a bundle with a bunch of assets, folders, files, and so forth. Those CPU architectures correspond to different CPUs that are being used in Android devices. I may use just 1 or 2 to speed up the build time and reduce the size of the application. Second is enable ProGuard release build. For now I'm going to leave it false. The ProGuard is being used to obfuscate the code, so the code used in application cannot be easily reverse engineered. It's not impossible though, but it's still protection. If ProGuard is being used, and depending on the code being written or libraries being used, some rules need to be placed in ProGuard rules file. Otherwise, the project will not build. And debug doesn't have ProGuard because ProGuard also significantly increases the time of building the project. Another thing to look at the version code. This code will be changed every time when application is upgraded. And the last section is for dependencies. Occasionally, certain dependencies need to be added to the project, and this is the place where they go. Next is iOS. iOS actually, from my personal experience, it's easier to work with, but it's harder to configure sometimes. Now, one thing to look at is a Podfile. You see it says platform such and such, target such and such. We're actually not going to be using tvOS at all, so we can even remove it completely. The Podfile describes the dependencies of the targets for the project. Using pods is the easiest way to add dependencies to Xcode project. Another way is to do it manually in Xcode. Every library that is made for iOS as well will have some kind of pod spec file, and this is sometimes that needs to be modified because, for instance, it may work on iOS but it may not work on tvOS and so forth. I'm not going to go into this, this is more, but it's something to look at. This is how pod spec file looks like. It specifies a lot of different things about the library and the targets iOS, tvOS. And that's about it.